It was a great moment for David. Samuel, the priest, prophet and judge of Israel, had summoned him from the shepherd duties. His father Jesse and his brothers were looking on in wonder as their honored guest anointed David as the future king of Israel. It would have been a proud moment for this youngest son of Jesse. It would be recorded in the annals of history how a shepherd boy had become king of the kingdom of Israel. Little did he realize that when he was anointed, he was enrolled not into the lineage of royalty, but into the path of submission and brokenness. This was a path which few willingly enrolled and even fewer graduated. If we suffer, we shall also reign with him. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 12. All who desire to reign with Christ have to undergo the trials which molds the spiritual in a path of brokenness. This is a path in which one has to suffer much pain. This is because God can only work through men who live in pain. Men who are broken vessels, fit for the master's use. One of the first lessons David learned was in King Saul's court. Although David had been anointed king, he had to first serve under a king. A mad king. A king who threw spears at you whenever he was troubled by an evil spirit. Now, when someone throws a spear at you, what should you do? Wrench it out of the wall and throw it right back. Everyone else does it. In doing this small feat of returning thrown spears, you will prove many things. You are courageous, you stand for the right, and you boldly stand against all wrong. You are tough and you can't be pushed around. You will not stand for injustice and unfair treatment. You are the defender of the faith, the keeper of the flame, detector of all heresy. You will not be wronged. It will also prove that you are a candidate for kingship. Most assuredly, you are the Lord's anointed. But in the path of brokenness that God leads us, this idealism cannot and will not be tolerated. In this path of brokenness, one is taught how not to be hit by spears. How can this be done? First, learn to duck quickly. Second, never throw back the spear. Third, never learn the art of spear throwing. Finally, you may need to keep your mouth tightly closed. In other words, when a trial of breaking takes place in our lives, we must first be quick to humble ourselves. We must bow our heads. In this way we receive grace to go through this trial. Secondly, when the Lord takes us through a period of breaking, we should never seek revenge from the one whom the Lord is using as a tool to break us. We should realize that the individual or circumstance causing this pain in our lives is an instrument He is using to make us more precious. Next, let us always be vigilant that we do not become an instrument which breaks others. Rather, let us yield ourselves to be vessel which is being broken. Finally, whatever the provocation may be, let us keep quiet. Just commit the matter into God's hands and be silent. In this way, spears will never touch us, even if the situation appears such that our hearts are hurt, causing us pain. How can we know that if a spear from the devil has hit us? We become bitter. Every learning in the path of brokenness will either make a better or bitter. What makes the difference? It is the greatest vessel of brokenness, our Emmanuel, or the unyielding I. If we refuse to listen to the voice of self and pride and focus our eyes on our Emmanuel, Jesus, Matthew chapter 1 verse 23, we can be assured of success through the path of brokenness. David's experience in the court of King Saul was just the beginning of his troubles. Saul made life torture, but David responded only with respect and private agony. No matter on how great the grievance was, no matter how justified, he would not speak against those in seats of responsibility. He only yielded himself to be broken. As we continue journey in the path of brokenness, God sets His eyes on the unbroken, proud soul within us and begins the process of breaking with meticulous care and purpose. This operation takes years and is brutalizing. It almost kills the patient. The inner being is mutilated. Yet David accepted it. He embraced the cruel circumstances. He lifted no hand nor offered any resistance, nor did he grandstand his piety. Silently, privately, he bore the crucibles. The self within David became unrecognizable. Many times the paths the Lord leads us through can be described as brutalizing, killing, mutilating. But during these periods of trial, these lessons in brokenness, the Lord not only desires but also expects us to joyfully and silently embrace these circumstances so that He may transform our character and make us like Him. As Saul persistently continued to chase him, caves became castles and pits became homes. It was during this time that the outcasts of society found security and peace while in the presence of David, who was hiding in the caves of Adullam. 2 Samuel 22:1 and 2. In the caves, drowned in the sorrow of his song and in the song of his sorrow, David became the greatest hymn writer and comforter of broken hearts. It is only when we are broken can the Lord use us to heal those who are broken-hearted and set the captives free. This truth can be clearly seen in Isaiah chapter 49 verses 7-9. To him whom man despiseth, to him whom the nations abhorreth, to a servant of rulers. Thus saith the Lord, I will give thee for a covenant to the people, that thou mayest say to the prisoners, Go forth, and to them that are in darkness, show yourselves. Even when he reached a very small measure of safety in a foreign land, he was feared, hated, lied about and plotted against. Everything was being crushed out, broken in pieces. David's ambition was now no higher than a shepherd's staff. Suffering was giving birth to humility and brokenness. David had changed. He talked less, loved God more, sang differently. By earthly measures, David was a shattered man. By heaven's measure, he was a broken one. As we yield to be broken, as we bend our heads, the world will call us foolish and cowardly. Yet heaven will call us kings and priests. Revelation chapter 1 verse 6. Another issue dealt with in the path of brokenness is rebellion. A man who instigates a rebellion has already proved that he has a critical nature, an unprincipled character and hidden motives in his heart. He is a thief and one who creates dissatisfaction. A broken man never rebels. No rebellion in the kingdom of God is proper and can never be blessed. Even after being crowned king, David had to learn many lessons in the path of brokenness. Although he was now accepted and confirmed as the king of Israel by the people, he showed submission, not authority. David taught losing, not winning, giving, not taking. He shielded from suffering, did not mete it out. Authority from God is not being afraid of challenges. He makes no defense nor cares if it is dethroned. David was willing to lose everything. He gave God a free hand to end, even destroy his kingdom if it pleased him. We can see this brokenness in the way David reacted to Shimei when he cursed him. 2 Samuel chapter 16 verse 10 and 11. This attitude of selfless abandonment is a sure sign of brokenness. After learning many other lessons in this path of brokenness and completing his rigorous life, David finally graduated. Later he became the only king of Israel who ever obtained the testimony from God, a man after mine own heart. Acts chapter 13 verse 22. Therefore all those who desire to receive the same testimony from God should continue in the path he is leading, which may at times be a path of brokenness.